Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news on a Sunday morning. And have we got some cracking bits of information to digest? Fantastic. Look, lots to get into. Last night was quite an interesting night. A lot of briefs coming out around Mason Mount. Does he want to go? Are United walking away? Mason Mount wants to stay at Chelsea. United are going to walk away and get CAICEDO. A lot of this, as I'm sure many of you have predicted, is just posturing, lies, smokescreen and spin. We'll talk about that. CAICEDO, what's likely to happen with him. I think the stupid thing is the vast majority of us would prefer CAICEDO over Mason Mount, and that's not because Mason Mount's a bad player. I think CAICEDO, as I said yesterday, it's a bit like Ten Hag wanted Timber and he ended up with Martinez, and that worked out better, even though Timber was the priority. I think the same again. Mount's the priority, but CAICEDO, I think, would be better for United. So will that happen or not? We'll talk about that. But we're going to start off with this David De Gea story, which, look, a lot of people will like and a lot of people won't like. But I don't know whether you follow me on Twitter. I sort of don't do threads on Twitter, but I did a thread yesterday. And it sort of fits in. Kieran, thank you very much for your super chat. But it fits in very nicely with this. Now, this is coming in from the Mirror. The Mirror have always been very good in relation to Ten Hag sources. This happened before Ten Hag came to the club and has continued last summer, last season and this summer. I don't know why. There's people in Ten Hag's inner circle that speak to the Mirror because they do get good information. And this is what they're saying. David De Gea is aware that Ten Hag has other priorities this summer, and his advisors feel that that will strengthen their position in negotiations as the clock ticks down over the coming days. David De Gea's bid to bring Manchester United back into talks over a new contract is being strengthened by Erik Ten Hag's reluctance to splash the cash on a new keeper. Man United's last offer to De Gea is believed to be in excess of £200,000 a week. Sales could add another 100 million plus to Ten Hag's summer budget, but the Dutchman would still prefer De Gea to stay as his number one rather than spend a significant sum on a replacement goalkeeper. So what does that all mean? Well, it's going to upset some of you, and it's going to upset some people who have been pontificating, i.e. spreading made-up stories from bad sources. The story has been that Erik Ten Hag wants a new goalkeeper and wants to get rid of David De Gea. This is not the case, and it never has been the case. Holly, thank you very much. And it's interesting that we're now getting clarity from a source very close to the Erik Ten Hag side of things. I know the Mirror has ties with Ten Hag, but that article felt like it came from De Gea's camp, says Joshua Bowwater, Holly Kenny. Well, look. Joshua, I appreciate we're going to tread the ground that United Stand is happy to tread, where it's called divisive. If true, he cannot be keen on Onana at all, says Robert McCormack. Look, I like Onana. And if De Gea leaves, you've got to go and get Onana or Costa. You cannot have what we had last night, where if De Gea leaves, he might use Henderson. That terrifies me. I want De Gea to stay. I like De Gea, but it cannot be Henderson. It cannot. It has to be, if De Gea goes, it's got to be Onana. I think we'd all be in agreement with that. United won't spend 60 on Mount, but CAICEDO will cost 80 plus. No chance that'll happen. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, Jonathan. Let's just talk about the goalkeeper situation. So look, basically, I think we can figure out what's happened here. Why is it United have been looking at Onana, speaking to his agent? Why is it they offered David De Gea a contract? Why has it not been signed? And why is De Gea still thinking he'll sign a new contract in the next week? It's very, very clear, that there is a little bit of negotiation to be had between David De Gea and Manchester United on wages. It's very, very clear that that's the problem. Erik Ten Hag publicly has always said he wants to keep David De Gea. He has said he wants some competition for him, but he's always said he wants to keep him. If you're keeping a goalkeeper on 200 grand a week, they cannot be second choice. I admit that. You can't keep David De Gea and buy Onana. You can't keep David De Gea and keep Henderson. You can't have a £200,000 a week goalkeeper sat on the bench reserve. He has to be number one or he has to leave. Now, where this becomes really easy, and some people don't want to listen to it, is that our budget is somewhere between 120 and 200 million pounds. I believe, and have said many times, we will spend 200 million pounds. But just get a pen and paper. The initial plan for Erik Ten Hag this summer was Harry Kane for 80, Mason Mount for 50, that's 130, Kim Min-jae for 40, that's 170, and Rabiot on a free. 170 million pounds spent, and then you go and get maybe you try and get Højlund for 40, 210. Maybe you go and get, a cheaper goalkeeper or whatever. But that was his plan. Maybe you pay a little bit more for Harry Kane. But roughly £200 million on Kane, Mount, Rabiot, Kim Min-jae, and a young up-and-coming goalkeeper. That was his plan. That was his £200 million plan. Kane's gone. Mount's a mess. Kim Min-jae's gone. And suddenly, Rabiot's gone maybe as well. And suddenly his whole plan, which he gave to Murta and Arnold, is all over the place. So suddenly they're saying, well, we don't know what we're doing. It's chaotic. We've got the £200 million, but we don't know what to do here. And they don't know. And that's why we're getting linked to Rice. That's why we're getting linked to CAICEDO. That's why we're getting linked to Onana. There's a lot of conjecture and there's a lot of guesswork going on. But ultimately, the bottom line is, whether we like it or not, Erik ten Hag's £200 million plan has fallen apart because United are terrible at recruiting. So suddenly it's like, well, do we go and get a goalkeeper and remove De Gea? But Ten Hag's saying, well, look, it's all fine and well spending £40 million on Onana or Costa, but that leaves me with £160 million to get 2 midfielders, a centre-back and a striker. It's never bloody happening. So Ten Hag's stance is probably the same as mine and some of yours. If we've got a spare 50 million quid, now's not a bad time to go and get an Onana. But we haven't got a spare £50 million. So you'll get people moaning about Ten Hag not replacing the goalkeeper, but get into the real world. Actually offer up a solution as, if your budget's 200 million, why are you wasting 40 of it on a goalkeeper and leaving yourself with 160 to buy 2 midfielders, a striker and a centre-back? And I think we need 2 strikers as well. So this just comes down to priorities. I don't think this is because Erik ten Hag thinks David De Gea is better than Onana. I don't think it's because he wouldn't want a ball-playing goalkeeper. I think it simply comes down to a restricted budget and priorities. And we've all got different priorities. Some people would say, I want a goalkeeper more than anything. Well, unfortunately, that's not what Ten Hag wants. He wants a striker. He probably wants 2. He wants a number 8. He wants a holding midfielder. And by the time he's got that, he will not have 40 million left to spend on a goalkeeper. So I think where we're at the moment is that, yeah, David De Gea may be gambling, but he probably is in a reasonably strong position because he knows that, he's already at the club. He's a goalkeeper that's just won the Golden Glove. And for another year, he can still be United's number 1. And United can then spend their money elsewhere. I mean, I wouldn't say I've been waiting for this story. I'd say I've been confused by this story. But it does make sense. If you've got Qatar and you've got 400 million to spend, you probably say, thanks, David. You've been a great servant. Bye-bye, Onana or Costa. But we're working off a restricted budget. Now, look, that doesn't mean we're not going to sign Onana and David De Gea is going to leave in the next few days. But it obviously shows you. I think what it shows here is, because I know a lot of you will want Onana and some of you will want De Gea to stay, but it matters not. I think sometimes you've got to read the room. This just shows, and I think we all agree on this, we will all be united on this, it's the 25th of June, and it shows how chaotic and what a shambles Man United's transfer window is. That we might keep a goalkeeper, we might buy a goalkeeper, we don't know how we're going to spend our budget, we've missed out on every bloody target we want, we've sold nobody yet. It is just what it is. It's chaotic, and it all comes down to the fact that probably in April, Erik ten Hag said, Harry Kane, Mason Mount, Rabiot, Kim Min-jae and a young goalkeeper, and that's all I want this summer. Kim Min-jae's going to Bayern, Kane's staying at Spurs, Mount we'll talk about in a minute, Rabiot's staying at Juventus, and the young goalkeeper we want, I think, is signing for Brighton. We've absolutely messed up a strategy that Ten Hag probably has been working on for months and is now being asked in late June to come up with a new one. That's what you get working with United. It must be high blood pressure FC for Erik ten Hag. Every year we start our summer with great excitement in the transfer market. Then every year it's the same disappointment, says Ben. And welcome to Members Club Pokey. Look, at the end of the day, just acknowledge what I've just said. You cannot blame the manager. Imagine if you're the manager of Man United. You're going to be passionate. You're going to be obsessive. You're going to plan things out. You're buzzing off the last season. You're in the Champions League. You've won a trophy. You want to go again, go to the next level. You've got loads of ideas. You hand them into the director of football. They're smiling. They're patting you on the back. Yeah, we're going to do this, Eric. We're going to do this. You go on holiday. And then while you're on holiday, you get a message coming through saying, those plans you had, we've basically messed it up. What's your other plan? And you go, well, that list had had option 2s on it. Yeah, we've messed them up as well. What are you telling me? Everything I've planned out is messed up. Yeah, this happens a lot, Eric. That you'll get used to it, and I think that's where we're at the moment. So look, we'll have to wait and see how it develops. But look, there's still lots to talk about. I want to talk about Mason Mount now. Kago says we need big conversation. Big new owners. Ali says this will cause a big toxic arguments. You know what though? I really would say this. If we're going to have days of arguments between people who like De Gea and people who don't like De Gea, we're all idiots. We're all idiots if we fall into that argument, because that's not the issue here. That is not the issue. The fact that we're having that conversation is terrifying if you think it's about De Gea. It's not. It's about the owners. It's about the director of football. We wouldn't be having this conversation if the owners and the director of football had done what Ten Hag wanted. The fact that we're having this conversation about Onana or De Gea or Henderson or whoever is because the summer has already descended into farce, where side stories like this, I mean, it terrifies me that people want to spend 40-50 million pounds of a 200 million pound budget on a goalkeeper and leave themselves with 150 million pounds to buy a top striker, 2 midfielders and a centre back. The maths just don't work. A top level goalkeeper, I've been saying to you for a year, where's the money coming from for that? Where are we finding 50 million pounds to spend on Onana, or 45 million? Where's that money coming from, unless you sacrifice something that I believe is way more important? If we don't buy a holding midfielder, forget next season. It's over. You cannot get Casemiro to play 90 minutes, 60 games. He'll get suspended, injured, lose form. You can't do it. You cannot not have a striker, and you cannot rely on Harry Maguire next season, so we need a centre-back as well. I just think it's chaotic. We need some decisions to be made, and at the moment it's very, very slow. Last thing needed in a season with this many uncertainties is question on the keeper. De Gea is established, consistent and leader, one for next year. Look, Nick, I'm not saying keep De Gea for the long term, but I'd keep him for next season. Stability, leader in the dressing room, more new players coming in, big season coming up. Look, I get the problem with distribution, but one more year with De Gea and, then next season maybe you prioritise that. Are we not signing Sabitzer? No, Hugo. Sabitzer's gone. Sabitzer's finished. Yeah, he's not coming in. Let's update on what's going on with Mason Mount, because I tell you what, Faz did the show last night. I was down the pub watching a bit of Guns N' Roses at Glastonbury, keeping an eye on Twitter, and what a mess that was. Unbelievable what's going on here. So let's remind ourselves. Mason Mount, Friday, third bid goes in. Chelsea don't reject it. They think about it. Late Friday night, they reject it. United, Saturday, looks like they're walking away. Talk of CAICEDO, who's more expensive. United fans are right, yes, walk away, go and get CAICEDO. It's a better option for us, and Chelsea are taking the piss. Saturday night, Mason Mount, in some stories, never wanted to leave in the first place. Saturday night, Fabrizio says United still in the race for Mount. It's still open. And a lot of people, Ben Jacobs saying as well, that offer remains on the table. United will walk away, but the offer will remain. And if Chelsea want to take it, they will take him for 55 million. Where are we at with Mason Mount? What's going on with CAICEDO? Well, look, absolute fact, Mason Mount wants to leave Chelsea. Doesn't mean he will, but this nonsense story, welcome to the Members Club, Brendan, it's absolute nonsense. And look, people have to spin, they have to do PR. If Mason Mount can't leave Chelsea, he's got to make out that he wanted to stay all along. It's very easy to do that. They offer him the money he wants, he signs the contract and says, I never really wanted to leave, they just needed to show me a bit of love. Everybody's happy. But the bottom line is, Mason Mount wants to leave Chelsea. He wants to come to Manchester United right now. He was walking around nearly crying in an empty stadium at Stamford Bridge. He'd made his mind up months ago he was leaving, and he wants to come to Manchester United. If he ends up staying at Chelsea, that's not really what he wants. Doesn't mean he can't make it be what he wants, but he wants to leave Man United. He wants to leave Chelsea and come to Manchester United. That's where his head is at the moment. So that's just where it is. Eric Ten Hag wants Mason Mount. Chelsea wants stupid money. United are... I don't think United are walking away. I don't think we're in for CAICEDO. CAICEDO wants to go to Chelsea at the moment because United haven't made a play for him. I think the CAICEDO conversation is bullshit. As somebody just said there, they want 70 plus 10 for CAICEDO. We're moaning about 55 for Mount, which is too much, but are we going to go and spend another 15 million? I don't think we are. I don't think we can afford CAICEDO. I don't think we can afford Rice. I think we'll stay on Mount. We'll probably get it done in the next few days. And CAICEDO will get Chelsea. And I think Chelsea probably get the better deal. I would love United to walk away from the Mason Mount deal and sign CAICEDO. I think it would be better for us. That's just my opinion. I like Mount, but I prefer CAICEDO. I would love us to walk away and get CAICEDO. He is exactly what we need. But I think Chelsea will win here. And I think what United have done, and it's the oldest trick in the book, and it's so obvious. We're walking away and we're going to go for your target instead. And it's basically just making Chelsea go, give them Mount because we want CAICEDO. And I think that's the play from United. We're not going to pay any more than 55 and we're actually walking away and we're going to start negotiating on CAICEDO. And the minute we start negotiating on CAICEDO, Chelsea will get their arse in gear and sell us Mount. I think that's exactly what we're doing. And I think we can all see what's happening here. There ain't no way we are going to go and sign CAICEDO. I wish we were. I really do wish we were. Because the thing about CAICEDO is, you get Mason Mount and Rabiot. Well, CAICEDO's basically both those players. I actually think the way that Ten Hag has our midfield set up isn't right. And I think it will be problematic next year. You buy Mason Mount and you play CAICEDO, Mount and Bruno, we will get run through. We've seen it happen at Anfield. We've seen it happen at the Emirates. We've seen it happen at the Etihad. We've seen it happen at St James's Park. We will get run through. You play CAICEDO and Casemiro and Bruno, I think we will start to dominate teams from the midfield because there's more energy, there's more defensive work rate there. And Casemiro and CAICEDO are both very, very good passers of the ball as well. I think this is a pivotal moment for United, and I think we should pivot to CAICEDO and get that signing, because if you get CAICEDO, you don't need Mount and you don't need Rice. You've got a player that basically does both. For another, again, we don't need to look too long. If our midfield next season, our first choice midfield is Casemiro, CAICEDO and Bruno, but then Casemiro gets suspended, well, CAICEDO plays where Casemiro does and Eriksen drops in. Maybe you keep Fred. You know, I think that if you buy Mount, you've still got to get a holding midfielder. But if you buy CAICEDO, you don't have to buy an 8. So I would pivot to CAICEDO, but I don't know why we're not in for CAICEDO, but I don't think we are. I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's we're all or nothing in on Mount. I think Chelsea know that. That's why they want big money. And I think we're trying to scare them that we might go for their target. But I don't think we will. Why do we always go for Chelsea midfielders, says Kanye. And amazed how many people believe a press release from De Gea's camp, says Thomas. Well, it's clearly not a press release from David De Gea's camp. Why would David De Gea put a press release out saying that Ten Hag wants to keep him and he's confident that he's going to stay? I mean, that's like a turkey walking into the abattoir at Christmas saying, I think I'm just going in for a look around. I'll see you in a couple of minutes, lads. Like, you need to understand what press releases are actually all about. Why do you think we will get now? Who do you think we'll get now then with no Mount, no Kane, no Rabiot, and no Kim Min-jae? Jensen, thank you very much for your super chat. God, thank you very much for your joining the members club. And Brendan and Pokey, we've already done. I do think we'll get Mason Mount. I don't think we're going to get Harry Kane. I don't think we're going to get Rabiot. I don't think we're going to get Kim Min-jae. Thoughts on Mount being linked with Bayern? Says, with all due respect to Bayern Munich, well done for getting Kim Min-jae, but you've got no chance of getting Declan Rice. You've got no chance of getting Mason Mount. You've got no chance of getting any English player that you're linked to, because the English players won't leave to go to Bayern Munich. So I ain't worried about Bayern Munich and Mason Mount. I wasn't worried about Bayern Munich and Declan Rice. I think Tuchel would like these players because he knows the Premier League, but there's absolutely no chance that Mason Mount's going to Bayern Munich. I wouldn't even be scared. Tuchel obviously has a relationship with Mason Mount. He won't go to Bayern Munich. He won't go. I am the only one of our... Sorry. Jay says, I am the only one of our second option made more sense than first example. Martinez, Casemiro, now CAICEDO and Onana. We need director of football soon. Ten Hag first choices are questionable. Look, Jay, I'm a massive fan of Ten Hag, and, I think most people are, but he's not flawless. He has made mistakes. He made mistakes against Brentford and Brighton in his first 2 games of the season. Anfield, he's made mistakes. Ten Hag has made mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes. He will make mistakes on transfers, but I sort of do agree with you. Transfers, if you can get 60% of them right, you're doing well. he's not going to be 100% correct. And everybody is right to say, I'm a little bit worried about Rabiot. I'm a little bit worried about Mason Mount. You know, the cold, harsh fact is he wanted Timber and he got Martinez. And they are completely different. And I don't think United have the season they had with Timber last year. How does that even work? Timber as a left-sided centre-back or Varane? It doesn't work. Martinez brought balance to that team and allowed us to pretty much have one of the best defences in Europe. I know we got smashed a couple of times, but we got the most clean sheets in the league. So, yeah, look, sometimes his second choices do work out quite well. Casemiro instead of De Jong. I mean, this doesn't get mentioned enough. Imagine he'd got De Jong. We wouldn't have had the same season because De Jong cannot provide the defensive cover that Casemiro does. Riddle me this. If we'd got De Jong last summer, do you think we would have had a good a season as we did? Because last season was built on a strong defence where Casemiro protected that defence. Who would have protected the defence if we'd bought De Jong? Nobody. Fred? McTominay? De Jong? Have you watched De Jong? He's not a defensive shield in the sense that Casemiro is. He can do that role, but it's more about conducting with the ball. It's not about defensive work rate. So, you know, absolutely correct. This is what I mean. If we pivot from Mount to Caicedo, I actually think it will be better for our future. Just the same as we pivoted from Timber to Martinez and from De Jong to Casemiro. I guarantee you, if we got Timber and De Jong instead of Casemiro and Martinez, I don't know that we'd be sat here now with a trophy in Champions League football. I don't know. We'd be very, very different to last year. And last year was built on a well-organised defence. I think Timber would have been a drop-off from Martinez, and I think De Jong would not have provided the defensive cover. So, you know, but I've always said that I want Caicedo. For me, Caicedo's the player to go and get. But I think we're gonna keep in with Mount. And I like Mount. I do like Mount, but every day of the week, we did the poll yesterday. Caicedo's exactly what we need, and I think Chelsea get the better deal. And that always worries me as well. Give a rival 55 million quid so that they can go and buy a player that's better than the player you're buying and make them stronger. I mean, it's almost arse about face, isn't it? I don't like giving rivals money. I don't like it because we take Mount, they go and buy Caicedo. I think Caicedo is better than Mount. So Chelsea get a better transfer than us, and we aid them buying Caicedo by paying for Mount. I don't like doing those things. And Brighton are a rival, but at least you're not giving money to Chelsea. So, you know, Chelsea want our spot in the top four next year as well. But Ten Hag sees something in Mason Mount, and you've got to accept that, and you've got to acknowledge that, and see that, look, the manager deserves credit, he deserves patience, and you know, I do think Mason Mount brings something to United that we don't have in the number 8 situation at the moment. But for me, I'm almost fed up of saying this because we do have Casemiro, but we need another one. We need another holding midfielder because we were crying out for a holding midfielder for years because we never had one. And now we've got one. We've seen how vulnerable we are. If anything happens to that one, we become a completely different side. Man United's latest offer of 55 million for Mason Mount remains on the table, but they will refocus on other targets. They retain an interest in Caicedo among other players, says Sky Sports. In 2020, he said, this is what Caicedo said, "My dream is to arrive at Man United. I like English football a lot because it is a quick style of football." Man United are pursuing alternative targets to Mason Mount. Brighton believe he's worth 100 million, though, for Caicedo. We're not going to get involved in that Caicedo deal. We're absolutely not. There was some stories that United have dropped interest, but I don't think they have. Although the Times, this was from last night, maybe Faz spoke about this. Jonathan Norcroft, good journalist in the Times, says Erik Ten Hag is thought to be on board with the decision to switch midfield targets due to Man United's limited budget. Despite being keen on Mason Mount, Ten Hag wants to use that budget efficiently and to not overpay for players. They've left the 55 million offer on the table. If Chelsea are willing to close the deal for that value, there could be a compromise. As well as preparing a bid for Moises Caicedo, Man United will also step up attempts to sign a new centre-forward, with Højlund and Moani the primary options being looked at. Kudos is another who could come under consideration. Brighton are believed to value CAICEDO at around 80 million, considerably more than the 58 plus 7 add-ons Chelsea are demanding for Mount. But Man United are prepared to take into account CAICEDO's younger age and radically different contract situation. United's decision to pursue other options was taken after Chelsea rejected their third offer for Mount. Chelsea are insisting on 65 million, a price United consider unrealistic. I think, interesting to read that from the Times and Jonathan Norcroft, but it only echoes what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so. Ten Hag has a restricted budget, and the minute he starts overpaying, you're eating into the budget for other players. Michael Murray with a super chat says, we should not let other clubs bully us in the summer transfer market anymore. We are the club with the richest traditions. We are the descendants of the Matt Busby babes. We are the proud Man United club, says Michael. Well, this is why we need new ownership, mate. The scouting needs questioning, says Eamon. Most of our targets seem to be Premier League based. No wonder we overpay. Where's the Chicharito signings? Good point. Where is the good scouting? You're right. You get a lot better value for money on the continent, in Europe, and you will also get easier negotiations. It's very hard to negotiate with the Premier League clubs. How can we say Erik Ten Hag's first choices aren't correct? Because he did so well with his second choices. That's an argument to back him and give him first choices, says Sambo. Well, of course we can. I've just sort of justified it, mate. I said that Timber was first choice over Martinez, and I don't see how it works better than Martinez. De Jong was first choice over Casemiro, and I don't see how De Jong works better than Casemiro. That's what we're saying. It says other players in that article. That scares me because the names I've seen mentioned are horrendous. I dread the transfer window every year, says Dan Watson. Ash is a member for 38 months and says, hi Mark, hypothetically, De Gea camp may have briefed media to leverage extra pay from alternative offers. Hope you're well, keep up good work, says Ash. Look, believe what you want to believe, but the bottom line is the Mirror are close to Ten Hag. I don't think you really like Mount as top target, but you're trying to be positive because Ten Hag wants him. We as fans know CAICEDO is top, says Sumya. But there's nothing to hide, Sumya. I would prefer CAICEDO to Mason Mount every day of the week. Yes, I would. I was very shocked when we were strongly linked to Mason Mount. I didn't feel it was a priority position. But Erik Ten Hag does. And Erik Ten Hag is the manager. And I do think that this manager has earned in his first 12 months respect and patience and backing. And if he wants Mason Mount, then I will back it. And I do think Mason Mount's a decent player, but it did shock me when we went for him. And I would go for CAICEDO or Rice over him every day of the week, because for me, the priority positions are striker and holding midfielder. I think we can get by without a number 8 this year if we don't need, Eriksen's still there. Bruno can do that role. You could keep Fred. But I think a holding midfielder is more important. But that's just my opinion. Ten Hag's the boss. Tom Walker, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for that. There was a question there. How do you think the next week goes and what's happening with the sale? I feel like I've lost a week. I don't know about you. I was just saying there, before I went live, I actually thought this was the 18th. I didn't realise it was the 25th. I don't know why. I feel like I've lost a week. That's not a good thing in what we're talking about. Literally next Saturday is the 1st of July. I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. It's the 1st of July on Saturday. On Saturday, it's the 1st of July. I can't believe that. Where has June gone? And it's not like anything's been happening. Like June, there's been no Euros. There's been no World Cup. In a way, it's good because as a kid, I hated the summers where there was no World Cup or Euros and June would drag. It's gone like that. That's a bad thing because I'm looking at it and I'm going, shit. Like, some United players are going to be back in training next week. This is terrifying. So, in relation to the next few days, never say it will happen with United because we're very incapable of doing nothing. But we need to be doing something over the next week. And I think you've got to focus on transfers there because the thing you do not want and that really always bothers me is Dean Henderson, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, whoever you want to sell, the minute they come back for pre-season training, they become harder to sell. It's all smiles. It's all let's go on tour to America. They're all one of the lads. There needs to if I was a manager, there has to be a cut-off point. The season ends. I don't want you here next season. You're not coming back for pre-season. You're gone. Lots of the deadwood is going to be rolling up to Carrington. And as soon as they do that, opinions change. The player thinks, I fancy another year. The manager goes, I quite like having them around. It's indecision and dragging it out. And it's a problem. All these players we should be selling are going to be training in the next week or two. They shouldn't even be here. Why have we not sold them? All these players we need to bring in are going to be back training with their current clubs, missing out on pre-season. I read something this morning that Ten Hag's going to do double training sessions and beast mode his players. What's the point? What's the point in doing double training sessions when you haven't got your signings in and you're doing it with players that you don't want to be here? Like, we're not prepped for the new season again. And this always happens. And there were so many briefs in April and May about how Ten Hag wanted to get his business done early, really wanted to have a proper pre-season with new players and players out. And here we are again, and it's just not going to happen. And so we've got to start. Look, what do I think is going to happen in the next week? I haven't got a bloody clue. Ideally, 2 players in, 2 players out, but we'll be lucky if we get 1. Fun fact, the Theatre of Dreams nickname to Old Trafford was first given by the great Sir Bobby Charlton, says Michael Murray. Thank you very much. Well, look, that's where we're at the moment. You know, I hope to see developments. If you're asking me who I think our next signing is going to be, I still think Chelsea will do a deal for Mason Mount because they won't want us to go anywhere near CAICEDO. And I don't think we are going to go anywhere near CAICEDO. I think we've been played like prats by Chelsea. I think we're trying to be clever by going, yeah, we're going to go for CAICEDO. We're not going for CAICEDO. We don't want to pay £70 million for somebody. We're not going for CAICEDO at all. We want Mount, and Chelsea will give us Mount at some point when it suits them. I think Mount still comes to United. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. I'll speak to you soon. Tonight's Sunday night show's normally at 7 o'clock, so I'll see you at 7 o'clock unless something happens in between. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Speak to you in a bit.